I think that whitewashing is a misnomer, but that's the word that was used originally because of the fact. Well, originally how it's used is that in Hollywood often, and it happens too often that stories that were originally black stories or Asian stories or non-white stories. Once it gets to Hollywood or once it gets to the media, it becomes, it's infused with these white characters, or even sometimes the main characters become white. And this is what whitewashing meant. In this case, what happened was Naomi Osaka, the tennis player, was featured in an ad by a very famous food company here in Japan. And in the advertisement, instead of using her natural color and natural characteristics and qualities, they pretty much turned her into a white girl next door. But the reason it was called whitewashing is because I think Japanese manga itself has a tendency to make the Japanese characters look like white characters. But in reality, it's manga-ized. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily whitewashed. It's kind of manga washed or Japanese manga washed, but nobody knows that phrase. But whitewash people can identify with because you look at her characters, you look at her characteristics in the ad, she kind of looks like a white girl to me and to most people. So I wrote an article about that. I wrote a column about that, and it was picked up by a lot of the media around the globe, BBC, New York Times, et cetera. And it became a thing. But, and as a result, this company pulled the ad, apologized, and also there's, again, like what happened with blackface, there has been public discourse about why would a media company distort her image in this way. And also there's been discourse about the challenges of being biracial here in Japan, which were raised by Naomi Osaka's whitening. So it's been great. That's the result. That there's a public discourse and discussion, and people are thinking about these types of issues. I couldn't ask for more. All halves are not the same. I don't think they're viewed as the same by Japanese people. I think there's a big difference between someone who, for example, is half white as opposed to half Chinese or half Korean or half black, half Middle Eastern, half Indian. Now, personally, I feel a strong bond, a connection with biracial people here because I think that their experience here is very similar to the experience of people of African descent or black people in America because we are full citizens, but because of our color or because of our difference from the main from the mainstream, so to speak, oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes we're relegated to kind of a second class citizenry, and and I see the same thing happening here with people of biracial descent, a multicultural descent, mixed heritage, and yeah, I feel a bond with them. I feel like I really understand where they're coming from and what they're going through, and I feel like I'm an ally, I'm a supporter. Full time, full on. I've had several strategies that I've gone through, and I found one to be particularly helpful. I think that, and this is not just true for Japanese, this is true even when I'm talking with our Caucasian brothers and sisters. Once you use words like racism and racist, I think people tend to close off, they shut down a little bit, especially if they feel like they're being accused of it. I think that people tend to retreat to their, to their foxhole, their security place, their place where they feel safe, and that's just not the way to reach any kind of resolution or reach any type of, to reach any conclusions or reach any to solve any problems. That's not the way it's going to, that's not the way it will happen. So what I do is I try to avoid using words like racism and racist. And I use, for example, one workshop I did here in Japan is I dealt with presumptions. So the name of this workshop was called Reducing Presumptions. And and the point of this is that at the heart of a lot of the issues that occur here in Japan are presumptions. You presume because I'm not Japanese that I can't use chopsticks, or I can't speak Nihongo, or I'm liable to speak to you in English on a train out of the blue, so you won't sit next to me. So a lot of the issues that look like discrimination in Japan are actually the result of these presumptions that are being fed by stereotypes, or being fed by misinformation coming out of the media, or coming from your friends or your family. But they result in these presumptions, and these presumptions, the behaviors are problematic. So if we can reduce our presumptions and come to the glaring truth that actually you know zero about a stranger, regardless of their skin color, regardless of their background, regardless of whatever they're wearing, you actually don't know anything about this person. And if you start from zero with every individual that you encounter, chances are you're not going to discriminate against them in any way, because you'll be fully cognizant of the fact that you know nothing about this person. So the end result of my workshop was everyone comes to the conclusion that zero is the hero. Zero. If you come to every new interaction with a new person, a new entity, if you come to every new interaction knowing that you know nothing about this person, chances are you're not going to offend that person. You're going to ask questions differently. You're going to look at them differently. You're not going to say that, oh, you play basketball, right? You're not going to make a question like that. So it's kind of difficult to offend people when you don't know anything about them. You're going to say, oh, what do you like? You're not going to make any presumptions about the person. And if you approach everyone in that way, chances are you won't offend and you won't discriminate. So, and in that way, you don't have to use the word racism or racist at all throughout the entire conversation, but people will come to that conclusion on their own. Like, wow, that's right. I do use a lot of presumptions when I'm dealing with people, and I can understand how that can be perceived as racist or discriminatory and whatnot. So, I need to be more aware of how I'm interacting with people. That's the goal anyway. Racism ain't never going anywhere. It's never going to be totally eliminated, eradicated. But if we can reduce our presumptions, the world would be a much better, I think people would be able to get along a lot better with one another.